Welcome to the Religious Treehouse. I'm Matthew.
I'm Jodie.
And I'm Faith.
Faith, who are you? We have a third person on here. What's going on?
What?
Hello. It was
Hi,
so good to
hi,
be
Faith.
here.
Oh, we're so happy to have you. This is Faith. Everyone who's watching, look at Faith. Everyone who's listening, listen to Faith. This is so exciting. Faith is a friend of mine who is working on her Master's of Divinity at Duke University. And she is our resident expert on what we're talking about today. So I'm so happy to have Faith on.
I don't know if I'm much of an expert, but I'm something.
You're something, all right. Uh,
Definitely humble.
um, but no, I've known Faith for many a year. So this is
Since
and
preschool.
since preschool, Faith does enjoy introducing me as some friend from preschool, which is my favorite way to be introduced, just some guy from preschool. But here we are, and we're talking about the Akedah, Genesis 22, the binding of Isaac, which is one of Faith and I's favorite things to talk about. And I already see Jodie having a finger up.
Okay, now run that back for me one more time, bro.
The Akedah, it means binding in
Mm,
Hebrew. So that's how um, Jews generally refer to the story, the Akedah.
That's, I love that. Okay, sorry. Continue
Yeah.
on.
Akedah. So here we are. Jody, before we get into this conversation, do you want to give us a brief summary of Genesis 22?
You know I do. Well, as per usual, God loves to put up a test. And God decided to put Abraham to a test. And he said, hey, that son I promised you? Kill him. Kill him and sacrifice to me. Kill him now. I dare you. And so Abraham said that. And then Abraham took his most trusted servants and he found a hill, a magical mountain where he was going to sacrifice Isaac to God. And then a special messenger came down and said, whoa, bro, stop. At this point, he had Isaac hogtied on top of a pyre, ready to light him up. And he was like, bro, no, there's a sheep behind you. Get that. It's all good. Wrap it up here. Move on. We see you. You believe. We believe in you. We're all good. It's kosher. The end.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's I think that's the end according to Kierkegaard. But the story goes on. But that's where Faith and I disagree about Kierkegaard, and we'll talk about Kierkegaard at some other point.
Oh my goodness. Leave
uh,
Kierkegaard alone.
but yeah, thank you for that wonderful summary, Jody. And I look forward to talking about this. Faith, do you have any initial thoughts before we get into this? Perhaps why this is so important to you or anything like that? Or shall we just dive in and go in order of what's going
Um,
on?
yeah, I'll just say this is my favorite story in the Bible. I have a tattoo of it. I think it's the best story ever. I love it
Yeah.
so much. People think I'm definitely crazy for my tattoo of it, but yeah. Yeah, and we could start from the top if you want.
Yeah, and I don't think you're wrong. Like this could very well be my favorite, certainly top three.
Oh yeah.
I think like just the literary aspect of this, like it's so suspenseful and tense, and like it's just riveting as like a text. Like there's so much happening in such
So
a short little chapter uh,
yeah.
that like I'm so excited. Like often with these episodes, we like look at specific aspects of things and yada yada yada. But I'm excited to just kind of look at this text, enjoy it, and talk about this text as a group of friends, a group of pals, and then hopefully in future episodes come back to this text and look at specific aspects of it, and so forth, such as how Kierkegaard translated it, or not translated, interpreted it,
Yeah.
and I'm sure that'll come up in today's conversation as well.
Sure. It'll a little bit, a little bit.
A little here and there.
Exciting.
Oh, perfect. So let's start at the beginning.
Yes.
Yeah, let's do it.
Perfect. So we start in Genesis 22. God's God's just one at this point. God tested Abraham and he said, Abraham. He said, here I am. And then God says, take your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah and offer him there as a burnt offering. I think there's a lot loaded there, and we should start there about why this is so important. Am I right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think we should also point out one of the themes of this chapter is Abraham responding with "Here I am"
Mm-hmm.
over and over throughout this passage. He repeats that phrase 3 times in this passage, which I just find really interesting. He says it to God, he says it to Isaac, and then he says it again to the angel of the Lord.
Ooh, that
Yeah.
is interesting. I wonder if that's Hene in Hebrew.
And here
But
I am switching over to my NRSVU e-Bible because this one says, I am right here.
yeah,
Oh,
Hinene.
that's an interesting interpretation, though. I am right here.
Hmm.
I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I think because I also think there's a connection with Mariah that this is happening with the idea of sight, like that this
Mhm.
happens later, depending on, the ancient translation. But, being present with God, like there's something happening there where there's a presence happening between Abraham and the deity for sure that I think is intentionally being brought to light.
Yeah. 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 Take your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah. I find it so specific, so interesting how specific God or whoever it is that's talking to Abraham is
Hmm.
in his description of Isaac.
Yeah,
Your only son
well,
whom you
yeah.
love.
He starts vague and gets more and more specific.
Yeah.
Uh,
Mhm.
take your son, your
Your
only
only
son,
son.
the one you love. Like I
Right.
love, and we'll have to talk about rabbinic literature in relation to this later. But a lot of times in the rabbinic literature, they have like a conversation between Abraham and God here, where the biblical text offers like God's interpretation, God's text, but like the rabbinic literature like adds in what Abraham is saying here, and like Abraham is like asking questions like, "Which son are you talking about?" And God says, "Your only son." And Abraham says, "What? Which son is that?" And God says, "The one you love." Like
Right.
specifying like and Abraham is like trying to weasel his way out of like having to
Uh-huh.
sacrifice his son, which I think is so funny. But like it's very interesting here how it like gets very specific here. Like this is Abraham's only son whom he loves, which goes against what we just read a few chapters previously with Ishmael.
Yeah.
Right.
Would he have offered up Ishmael if God hadn't said the one you love? Would he have been like, oh, you mean the one from the slave woman? Yeah, we'll kill him. We'll kill him right quick.
Yeah, and it's interesting because does this like imply Ishmael doesn't exist? Is like the author assuming Ishmael doesn't exist? Is Ishmael not a son to Abraham anymore? Uh, like how does that relation work? Or are we just completely
Right.
forgetting about that whole Ishmael narrative and saying no, this is just Isaac. We only care about Isaac now.
Also, Isaac being the son Sarah tried so hard to
Mm-hmm.
have, like just completely disregarding all of Sarah's hopes and dreams and desires and wants, and being like, your beloved wife, and all of that misfortune and grief she felt because she couldn't bear you a child. You're
Mm-hmm.
going to roast the one she did have.
Yep.
Yeah, and then to have the story in like the end of the story, Genesis 23, is just Sarah's death. It's so clear that Abraham is the person we care about this. That no part of this narrative we get Isaac's perspective or Sarah's perspective or anything like that. So what I love about the rabbinic literature, and that's how I've been trained in this. I the way I know this story best is through rabbinic literature. So I sorry
Yeah.
for going back to that so much. Just like faith, we'll go back to Kierkegaard all the time when talking about this. um like looking at this from what Isaac was going through, like how Isaac would have perceived this and how Sarah would have perceived this, I think is fascinating. Like this is my favorite text to just look at the possibilities of what's going on, to like step back from my historical critical lens and, the source criticism and all that. And we can talk about that and to just kind of immerse myself into the story of what's going on. I think this is just so good.
Yeah, well, I'll also say too, I studied philosophy in undergrad, so I
Mhm.
know this story specifically through the lens of Soren Kierkegaard, a philosopher who wrote specifically on this, but I also know the story through a Christian lens as being a pastor. But
Mhm.
either way, Soren Kierkegaard, when he writes about this, he talks about a perspective from Sarah. He
Mhm.
gives a perspective of how she might have felt, which I find really compelling. Just like you're
Yeah.
saying, it's a whole new way of interpreting because we only
Mhm.
get Abraham's perspective
Yeah.
in the story.
Yeah, and where I think Kierkegaard falls short is that we don't get the Isaac perspective. Like
Right.
I think that is necessary in order to like fully enjoy this text. To
Yeah.
Because like I don't know. Like we'll get there when Isaac actually like becomes involved in this narrative. We'll talk about how Isaac does his thing, and then Mount Moriah. That's later revealed in the biblical lore that this is where like the Temple of Jerusalem was built. I guess that's important to somewhat note as well.
Oh
But,
yeah.
Jodie, thoughts?
I mean, I was going to ask if it was a real mountain, and then you reminded me that that's where they built Jerusalem, and I was like, oh yeah, that's a real mountain. And I have thoughts on the whole Isaac thing, but that has to do with mice and men. But we'll get there when we get there.
Love it.
Cool. So yeah, we move on. Abraham rose early in the morning
Rose
because
early.
in the morning
Yeah.
because that's how you show God that you're really mean business, to wake up really early in the morning.
And that's why I was baptized at the sunrise service on Easter. I meant business.
Sure.
It did.
Like Abraham was ready for this. He's like, let's go. It's a camping trip. He says, Isaac, we're going camping. And Isaac says, why are we leaving at like 5 a.m.? Isn't it a little early? And Abraham says, we got to go. It's a long road. That's how I interpret this, at least.
Yeah.
But they get off, they get their donkey. They bring 2 young men with them and Isaac. And Isaac is carrying the wood. Abraham is carrying... do we get there yet? No, but Isaac is carrying the wood. They finally get to the mountain. Abraham says to the people with him, he says, stay here with the donkey. Isaac and them go up the mountain.
Wait, hold on. I want to say, he says, the boy and I will go over there. We will worship, and then we will come back to you.
Yes, and that's important for later.
Yes, he's very specific that me and Isaac are coming back.
Which perhaps ends up being true. Like, because, like, as we know, spoilers, Isaac doesn't get sacrificed.
Whoa.
But yeah, he's very specific. We will go up and we will come back, and it's to worship.
Yeah.
And Abraham, right, verse 6, Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it on his son Isaac, and he carried the fire and the knife. Abraham carried the fire and the knife, and the 2 of them walked on together. So again, this very interesting idea of Abraham and Isaac walking together, where Isaac doesn't know what's going on, but Abraham does. And it's this like dense emotional idea of like what is going on. And it's just so interesting to figure out and to think and put yourself into that perspective.
Well, yeah. And I mean, for both of them to be both Abraham or Isaac, I mean, just trying to understand what is being asked as a father, what's being asked of him, and then what's being asked of the son to be the sacrificial object, sacrificial lamb, whatever you want to use in this scenario. Yeah.
And like at no point, I think this is worth noting, at no point is Abraham asking, how does one sacrifice a human? Like this appears to be known. Like we're like, okay, this is a practice that happens. We understand how to make human sacrifices.
Right.
So that in itself, I think, is a little problematic and scary. That we just are like, oh yeah, human sacrifice. I know the steps. I know how to do that. Where we want to go? Up towards some mountain? Cool. Sounds good, God.
Easy peasy.
Easy.
Third day in Genesis, what was that?
The third day in Genesis, Genesis 1, that is the water, right?
Probably.
Because we have the light, and then, oh my goodness, this is stuff I should know off the top of my head, but I'm drawing a blank.
I'm a pastor.
It just seemed like the specific verbiage of on the third day, and I wasn't sure if you needed to look at the Hebrew to see if it was phrased the same way.
The third day, the fruit trees. The waters under the sky gathered into one place, and the dry land appear, and then the fruit trees and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Sorry. So no relation. I was just wondering. It was just like on the third day, and I was like, when have I heard that before?
Yeah, and you get 3 days. Like that happens a lot. That's a common theme.
Really?
Like you get that in Jonah. You get that in Genesis 1. You get that. Like it pops up. 3, 7s, 40s. Those are pretty common.
Okay. Interesting. I like the numerology in the Bible. It's everywhere. But and Isaac's not really being asked if he's chill with this. Like
but who would be?
I was gonna say
But like he even asks, like, where's the lamb? Are we not there yet? He's asking where the lamb is.
We're almost there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Isaac says, "Father," and he said,
Here I am.
"Here I am," as Faith brought up. But where's the lamb for a burnt offering? And Abraham said, "God Himself will provide the lamb for a burnt offering, my son." And the two of them walked on together. And I think again we have that very close familial language of Isaac saying "Father," Abraham saying "my son." Like we're showing this tight knit bond that is making this so rough, and I think it brings up questions. Is Abraham intentionally lying to Isaac? Does God or does Abraham actually think that this will happen? I think there's so many questions that this brings up.
I interpreted it as look at the rabbits, Lenny, in Of Mice and Men, and the brother's about to kill Lenny. He's like, just don't even think about it. Just look at the bunnies. Like a sheep will come. A sheep will be there. Or maybe that's him thinking, yeah, my son's not dying.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't. The way I see it, both are possibilities.
Yeah. Well, and I think not to bring it back to Soren Kierkegaard again, but that's kind of the whole point of like his book, Fear and Trembling, is him trying to understand like what even was his mindset when doing this sacrifice. Like, did he really think that, oh, God is going to redeem this story? God's going to make sure that my son doesn't have to be sacrificed? Or does he actually really think I'm going to have to do this right now? What's his thought process? And that's why I love the book so much, is being able to come up with 5 different or however many scenarios he gives on what Abraham actually thought.
Right. Yeah.
Because Abraham, like, he and God have like a special relationship, especially after seeing him getting God to go down on the number of good people that had to be in the city for him not to destroy it. I mean, he still destroyed the city. There wasn't enough people. But like that special kind of connection, like, would that be in Abraham's mind to be like, is it just a test? Like, he already made one promise. He's not going back on it. So that is interesting. Maybe I should read the Kierkegaard thing.
I highly recommend.
Yeah, like I think it's because like God is or Abraham is repeatedly tested here, and this seems to be the final test of what's going on. So, like it's definitely like Abraham definitely has this exalted status. He's the first prophet. He has this special relationship with God. Like there's a reason why he's considered the patriarch of Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. Like Abraham is considered to be this important guy, which I think makes it all the more intense that he's asked to sacrifice his son. Yeah, there's so much happening.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we move on. When they came to the place that God had shown him, Abraham built an altar there and laid the wood in order. Trees. Just want to point that out. Wood, trees.
Trees.
Yeah.
Trees.
Thought of you often.
Yep. He bound his son Isaac and laid him on the altar on top of the wood. This is where we get the name Akedah, because he bound Isaac. Then Abraham reached out his hand and took the knife to kill his son. Let's stop there.
Okay.
Right?
Look, Isaac just said, here, tie my hands. There was no bonking over the head. There was no, shh, hush, my child. Everything will be all right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is where a lot of, I think, rabbinic literature has fun, because they either have Isaac be very silent or very vocal, like depending on what's going on. Like, is Isaac just this passive figure that's doing as he's told, or is he figuring this out, going, whoa, 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 I'm being sacrificed. What's going on here?
Yeah. And
it's just this intense moment of just very slowly going moment by moment through this. Like I don't know when else in the Bible we get this slow movement. Then Abraham reached out his hand and took the knife to kill his son. Like that's so slow. Like we've slowed down the narrative so much. And I think that's just so intense. And we get so much artwork about this that is just so intense. Like this is the pivotal moment that we have in this story. The Abraham reached back with his knife.
Yep.
And then what happens? Like that's just so intense and it's so vivid and it's such a good image. As Faith would know.
as I have it literally tattooed on me.
Yeah.
This image on forever. Yeah, I mean, the it's so interesting to think about what, like you said, Matt, what was Isaac's reaction to any of this.
Mm,
I mean, you mentioned his potentially him just being so silent in these
mhm,
interpretations of what was happening. And I think a lot about, again, Soren Kierkegaard's like interpretation of this. And he talks about how the person who's writing the story is Johannes de Silentio, John the Silent. And so he's talking about um he is so unable to understand and express what is happening in this
mhm,
story as he is trying to interpret what's going on. So even the person who's reading it can't even express the anguish and devastation that's happening in this story. And
yeah.
then you look at the characters themselves who are maybe silenced to the point of because of fear or whatever, anger, anguish,
Mhm.
whatever you might want to attribute to it. It's just really
Trembling.
fascinating. Trembling. Like whatever you might want to interpret. But yeah, it's just fascinating thinking like what was going through his mind in this moment. Yeah.
Yeah. Like this is like we've talked about Esther a lot on this podcast. Like this is the moment where like I see big parallels between this moment and where Esther accuses Haman of like
Mhm.
I accuse you, you're the bad guy, because this is the pivotal moment. This is the moment where the artwork, you know, has the image. This is the action. This is the pivotal moment of the story, and it's
Yeah.
so good. I also think of Jephthah's daughter at this point because like we have very similar narratives happening here of the sacrifice of an only child, but in
Yeah.
Jephthah's daughter, as it ends with her eventual death and sacrifice, it speeds through that. Jephthah's daughter in the Book of Judges is zip zip go go, a couple verses and we're gone, as opposed to here where we're going dreadfully slow.
Right. The
I
author really makes you sit in it.
Yeah, I didn't realize the tempo thing until you guys started talking because like reading through it, I was like, oh yeah, sure. Yeah, 3 days real quick. Oh yeah, let's take a while on the death. Oh, no, it's not happening. Okay, moving on.
Yeah.
That is weird. And that is yeah, I see where the fear and trembling is. It's just Abraham. It's all Abraham. It's all focused on the father. It's all focused on there's really like Isaac's more of a prop at this point than anything else, right? Like the only characters at play here are God, Abraham, and the messenger.
Right.
Mhm.
And a ram.
And well,
Yeah.
Yeah. No, Isaac is very passive. He doesn't, as far as I know, I didn't pay too much attention to this, but now that I'm saying it, Isaac doesn't have very many active actions. Everything happens to him. It's not that
Mhm.
Isaac is doing anything.
Yeah. Isaac barely speaks. And when he does, it's about the sacrifice itself
Mhm.
here. Other than that, he's especially passive, like you're saying.
Mhm.
and Abraham
Yeah.
doesn't like show any concern or like say a prayer for his son or give him a kiss on the head. Damn, something,
Yeah.
like he just like he picks up the knife. He's just like, okay, I'm
He
gonna
got
do
up
it. It's
early in the
like
morning to do this. He means business. He's not
We're
messing
not messing
around.
around.
he's like, let me tie you up, throw you on the wood. Here's the knife. See, I'm doing what you asked.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, how do you interpret it then? Is it because he's a cold, hard-blooded almost killer and is like just so willing to do it? Or is it because he doesn't want to do it and knows I have to get this done?
Mhm.
Like this is what's required of me and I need to do it. And so I'm gonna get up early and I'm gonna get this done.
Those are all good, serious things. I don't know why in my head it's sassy. It is sassy. It is like bet you gave me the son. You said you were going to let me keep him, and now you're saying kill him. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever. I'll do
Yeah.
it.
The problem is I've shown you all the sassy passages in the Bible, and now you just think everything is sassy.
Why can't it be?
Why can't it be?
Yeah. Moving on to the pivotal scene. But the angel of the Lord called to him from heaven and said, Abraham, Abraham. He said,
Here I am.
Here I am. Do not lay your hand on the boy or do anything to him, for now I know that you fear God, since you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me. Not the one he loves, but your only son.
Your only son.
And
I find it so interesting that he says, now I know you fear God.
Yeah.
We've been with Abraham for so long,
Mhm.
and it's only now that we
Right.
know that he fears God. It's only after this act, this willingness of to sacrifice his son, that we know.
Mhm.
Just wanted to highlight that. I love that
Yeah.
part.
And then what I want to highlight here is we had God issue the initial decree.
Yeah.
God said, You're going to do this. But God doesn't show up here. Rather,
Mm-mm.
an angel, a messenger of the Lord, a messenger of God is the one that shows up here. So
Yeah.
God isn't the one saying, Hey, no, Abraham, don't do this. This is a different entity that presumably is speaking on behalf of God.
Yeah.
And what does
Presumably.
that? Yeah, and what does that mean for the story?
could it be the same messenger that went to Hagar, and told her about her thing? Okay,
Yeah,
you both bring up great points. I need to remember them because I had a response to Faith's,
mhm,
which was the like, oh, after all this time being with Abraham,
Yeah.
like now he knows. And I'm like, you know what? That is so true. Maybe he just really had to make sure all the evil was out of the bloodline. He was like, okay, now
Mm.
we're getting to one I like. Now we're like, listen, either you're it or we're just ending your bloodline and I'm picking back up with Ishmael because
Mm.
And then the messenger thing, that stuck out as weird to me because I'm like, God's the one who issued it. Why isn't God stopping it? Why is he
Yeah.
sending someone else to do this? Like, if you're truly pleased, why aren't you showing up?
Mhm.
So
It's interesting too, in all of the, well, in a lot of the artwork of this scene, we see the angel like grabbing Abraham's hand and the knife.
Mhm.
In Caravaggio's painting, the one that I have tattooed, like the angel is literally grabbing the hand of Abraham. And so I think it's so interesting to think about that in the terms of like who the messenger had to be maybe for the story,
Mhm.
because we think about God presenting God's self in different ways throughout scripture, like the burning bush and Moses,
Mhm.
and only ever and then sending messengers. And so maybe, I don't know, hypothetically, like it needed to be like this physical like stopping. And so God sent the messenger, or however you want to interpret it. I just think like literal, like in a literary way, that's really interesting that
Yeah.
person had to physically come in order to stop this from happening.
Mhm.
with
And
the
so it couldn't have been God.
Right.
with the
Yeah.
implication that it was mid-action. That
Right.
no verbal warning was going to stop that. Ooh.
Right.
Oh, that
So
is troubling.
it had to be then an angel. It couldn't have been God just saying, hey, whoa, 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 cut it out. It had to
Just
be,
kidding.
yeah.
Right.
JK.
But but if we want to take ourselves out of like the story here, we also note here that at this point we refer to God by a different name. Like previously, up until this point, it's been Elohim, Elohim. But
Mm.
here now we have Adonai, the divine name.
Mm.
So this gives hint that perhaps we have a different author at this point, inserting a different narrative that's happening.
Yeah.
I think largely most scholars agree that this has one voice for the most part, but there are, especially when we get to verses like 14 and 15, there seems to be a secondary voice adding something into this story. So that, taking away from, unimmersing ourselves into the story, there could also be some source critical things happening here that is
Definitely.
adding to the confusion, adding to the chaos, and adding to the depth of this.
Yeah.
It would be crazy. A different timeline, a different version where he does kill Isaac and
Oh,
the promise to Ishmael carries out. That'd be wild. Sorry.
well, and they're perhaps is evidence of that in this story here, and we'll get to this. I think it's in verse 18 or something. But only Abraham descends the mountain. Like, we don't get Isaac coming down the mountain.
Yeah, they don't name Isaac. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, and there is rabbinic literature that does have Abraham completing the sacrifice. So, like, to say it's completely out of the question that the sacrifice did occur, like, it's possible. There are some narratives. There is a potential timeline where Abraham did sacrifice Isaac.
That's exciting.
That's
Faith would have a different tattoo.
I would have a very different tattoo.
Face tattoo would be like 2 seconds later.
Oh man.
But yeah, so like we'll talk about that later at some other point, I'm sure. But to just like relish in the possibilities of what this text could be, I think is like, it's what makes this text so good. And so now we move on.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Abraham looked up and saw a ram and took the ram and offered it up as a burnt offering instead of his son. So Abraham called that place, "The Lord will provide," or "The Lord will see," depending on your translation. As it is said, "On this day, on the mount of the Lord, it shall be provided." So we got a ram. And Abraham said, "This is good enough." At no point did the angel say sacrifice a ram instead. We're just sacrificing a ram for funsies.
Yeah, that's nearby.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like a thank you for not making me kill my son.
Perhaps. Yeah.
He also said earlier, the Lord will provide sheep.
Right. Yeah. So is this Abraham, is this fulfilling, whatever that means, what Abraham had said? I don't know. But there's something happening here. And there's significance to the ram too in like rabbinic literature. It's just not coming to my head right now about why.
Yeah.
But there's a lot happening with the ram.
Well, again, it's another male animal, so lots of penis. Oh.
Sure.
There we go.
Matthew got a text from me earlier already
Yeah.
about another Abraham thing where his thigh was being cupped, and I had to ask. I was like, it's saying that they're cupping the thing that gives him the power to have children. I don't think it's his thigh. And Matthew was like, no.
There's a lot of euphemisms in the Bible.
There sure are.
Sure. Feet usually aren't feet.
No, thank you. No, thank you.
The more you know.
Yeah, but luckily there are no feet in this story.
Sorry. Thank goodness.
Amen. I think the Lord will provide, or the Lord will see. That's often written as Jehovah Jireh, which I don't know, like 5 years ago, a lot of Christians were like, "This is going to be what we're going to call God now."
This is this is it.
Do you remember that? Like, was that 5 years ago? Maybe
it's still
less.
it's still like the way, like, I mean, there's music, like popular Christian music, like that's how they refer to God now. It's really funny.
It's fun. I like it.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone really understands why they're saying it, but it's just it's popped up and they're like, Jehovah Jireh.
Okay.
Have you seen this, Jodie? No?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. In my brain, I was going through different ones. I was like, well, I like Hosanna. That's my favorite.
Hosanna.
Hosanna, Hosanna.
We're singing two different songs.
Is there significance in an offering being burnt? Or just does that mean cooked? So
anciently, it was thought, if you remember Percy Jackson,
yes.
I'm sure that's something you read. Similar ideas there in Percy Jackson. It kind of goes up to the gods so that the gods could smell the offering. So that's generally how it was conceived back in the biblical times, back in the way back then. So you offer up something that smells pleasing to the gods.
Okay. And it's the smoke that goes up as the offering, kind of.
Yeah, that's that's generally how it's thought of. Like, there's always exceptions to the rule, but that's for the most part how it's thought of.
Wow, Kierkegaard and Percy Jackson in this episode. What range?
We got big range.
Okay, so on the mount of the Lord it shall be provided. So we're just like, this is cementing that this is Lord blessed land, right?
Yeah, we're saying, cool, this is chill. We like this. 2 thumbs up.
Good things happened here.
Good things happened here.
But it seems like they're making a claim, like on the mount of the Lord, like on this mountain, on this specific ground,
Hmm.
it shall be provided. Is that something? Because like they built Jerusalem there.
Yeah, according to Chronicles. No, I think what we're doing, because it's very common in the Torah to like set important pieces of land as important. Like this is why this land is important, and to have something such as Jerusalem be as important as it is, to have some preceding events to make it even more important is better. So we get events such as this. Moving
Yeah.
forward,
Yeah,
the
let's
angel
do
of the
it.
Lord called to Abraham a second time. We get the angel's second speech. And he said, by myself I have sworn, says the Lord, because you have done this and have not withhold your son, your only son. I will indeed bless you, and I will make your offspring as numerous as the stars of heaven. And we get this, reiteration of what's been promised previously, that Abraham will, have lots and lots of children, as plentiful as the sun, because you have obeyed my voice. So this,
Ah,
we think, I think this is fairly clear evidence of a secondary author kind of reiterating what's going on, saying, hey, remember this, don't forget this. This is the point of what's happening.
I just don't know why we keep dismissing Ishmael. Why must we write Ishmael out of the books?
Yeah, we don't like Ishmael. That's that's something we learned from the Bible. Ishmael, not a fan of his.
Poor Ishmael. It's not his fault. Sarah started it.
Started it.
Okay, so make you as many offspring as numerous as the stars of heaven, and yeah, reiterating this big promise that he was just about to take away like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
Hmm.
we end. So Abraham returned to his young men, and they arose and went together to Beersheba, and Abraham lived at Beersheba. So, and this is what we talked about earlier. Isaac is removed from the story. This is just Abraham now. Did Isaac come down? And as I mentioned, there's different rabbinical interpretations saying no, Isaac died. That one's not very common. Oftentimes, when Isaac died, he gets resurrected. We'll talk about that at some point. And other interpretations have him going off to college to study with Shem, because you have to go study Torah, which I think is so funny because they're studying the book that they're in that hasn't been written yet,
Yeah.
but he's going off to study. It's so good. It's one of my
That's so
favorite
fun.
interpretations. Um, but like, there's a handful of ways you can deal with verse 19 with Isaac not coming back down. Or was Isaac pissed off at his dad for trying to kill him? And like, hold up, dad, we need a break.
Yeah, let's pause.
Yeah.
That one, because I would need a breather. I
Yeah.
would not
Yeah.
be walking back down the mountain with the man who had just tied me up and held a knife to me.
Yeah.
You could not catch me anywhere near him. Be like, father? I think not. Sperm donor, maybe. But
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah. One of my favorite Soren Kierkegaard in the beginning of the book gives a like don't laugh at me. He
No.
gives a one of the stories he gives about like ways to interpret what happened is he talks about how Abraham decides to pretend to go crazy in order to help alleviate the pain that Isaac is feeling, because he's like it's better for him to think that I'm crazy than for him to think that I in the right state of mind would do this.
Mm-hmm. And that also begs the question of what does it mean to have the patriarch of these religions be so willing to kill his son? Like,
Mm.
to commit murder at this, familial extent. Does that what did like I think this opens up the possibility that Abraham failed the test. That
Mm.
that there's a possibility that by going to kill Isaac, he failed the test and he had to be stopped by the angel. And that was him
Yeah.
failing the test. Like, I think that is a possibility that has been, historically been interpreted as a possibility. Like, did Abraham fail the test?
Yeah.
I like that.
Was Abraham supposed to say no to God?
I like that.
Yeah. I remember when this was being when Fear and Trembling was being taught to me my professor said I would say no. Like there's just
Mm.
no way I would be able to do it. And at the time it felt like that was like a moral failing statement to make. Like it felt like she was saying I would say no and would fail at this.
Mhm.
Um, but it's so interesting to think about it in a different way of like, no, he failed by agreeing to go up to the mountain.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shouldn't have packed that donkey up. Shouldn't
Nope.
have gotten up there. Shouldn't have tied up his son after clubbing him over the head. He shouldn't have been doing those things.
No.
It's so interesting because the way Matthew and I have been talking about like sources and things like that, I now have to really like sometimes sit and be like, okay, like I don't have the special Bible yet with all of the little like annotations of like sources and things. So I'm like, where could this have like had something happen? It's so that's why I love talking to Matthew about it. Because he
Yeah.
comes in with these facts of like things I wouldn't have even thought of. And I'm like, oh, what if this wasn't, and like you saying, what if it wasn't failing? Like, what if Isaac did die? What would our world look like if
Mhm.
all of these things were just a little different?
Yeah.
Because Isaac goes on, like that's how we get Israel and all that stuff. Like this is the pivotal, one of the top 5, top 10 characters of the Old Testament Hebrew Bible,
Mm-hmm.
and how his formation interacts, or how his formation creates the rest of the Bible. I think is fascinating to think about. And then how this verse has been, how this chapter has been interpreted by Jews and Christians differently. Like it's so easy for Christians to try to make a Christological approach out of this and say, oh, Isaac just represented Jesus. And we get, the parallels, the 3 days, the wood, the potential resurrection, depending on, if there is a death in some other sources. Like it's very easy for Christians to, I don't know if appropriate is the right word, but perhaps it is, to appropriate this text and say, oh, this is just symbolizing Jesus in the future.
Yeah. One of the big questions that I like in my Old Testament class at Duke, like had a sticky note that asked like, how can we faithfully, and respectfully read this scenario in a way that, you know, can we see Jesus on the cross in this story or not? Can we do this in a faithful way that doesn't disrespect other interpretations and other understandings? And I don't know the answer to that. I don't know. As someone who is a pastor, I look at this in a Christological view to some extent. I always will. I think that's, to Matt, maybe that's my crux. Like I have that point of view, and so I might be, might be failing a little bit in Matt's POV, but I still think like it's a really interesting parallel that you can't deny is at least there for you to decide whether or not you want to investigate it. Like
Mhm.
it's important enough to like look at the very least, whether or not you're going to take it seriously.
Yeah, and I agree it's important enough to look at.
Yeah.
Like we agree there, but I think it's important to look at it when we're in the New Testament and looking back at this instead of
Right.
looking at this and looking forward to the New Testament. I think that's when people really start to mess up.
No, I think that that's true. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Were you next to me while I was reading it, Matthew?
Yeah.
Were you listening to my brain? And I was like, Jesus, is that you? And then I was like, no. This happened first. They
Yeah.
had this
Yep.
before that.
Because there's so many parts of the Old Testament that have been so popularized in Christian culture and Christianity that it's so hard, if you've grown up in Christianity to any extent, it's so hard to look at these verses, these chapters, as anything other than Christological in some extent.
Right.
Like you can't look at the suffering servant in Isaiah without thinking about Jesus if you've grown up in Christianity in any sense, even though there's really no reason to think about that other than what we've been programmed to think in Christian settings. So I think this is another one of those places where it's so ingrained that this perhaps is looking forward towards Jesus, that it's hard to distance ourselves from that. But as I always say, we should we should take the text for what it is, not for what we want it to be.
Yeah.
But it is hard, man, because I was sitting there the entire time and I was like, and Abraham had so much faith in God, and Isaac had so much faith in Abraham that everything was going to be all right. And we all need to have faith, especially in our leaders, because they're the closest to God.
There we go.
Yeah. And then I had to sit in silence for 10 minutes and I was like, let's process that real quick.
Yeah.
Okay, so Kierkegaard, like, you guys said I was gonna have to referee. Where was the fight?
We'll get there. We'll get there,
Okay.
Jodie.
We will. I feel fine. I'm feeling good.
Yeah. But no, I think I don't know. I think this is a great starting point. Like, we've laid the groundwork of all the things to talk about with this story. Like,
Yeah.
like we touched on everything. We touched on like the Jewish and Christian different ways to interpret this. We touched on some artwork that talks about this. We talked about Fear and Trembling, Kierkegaard. We didn't really talk about like how this story parallels in Islam, but I think that's fascinating as well. Rabbinic literature, love rabbinic literature. There's a movie about this that came out a couple of years ago. It's so bad, but we're gonna have to watch it, Jodie. I'm gonna have to make you watch it at some point.
I want to watch it.
But
Okay.
I mean, like, we can talk about child sacrifice in ancient settings, and I don't know. There's so much that we can do with this, and I'm so excited to come back to this in future episodes.
I was gonna ask you if there was a Babylonian or some kind of neighboring entity or whatever that had a similar story. Like, I was wondering if we could look into like the Egyptians.
Not that I know of. I mean, there might be, but nothing that I know of off the top of my head. I don't know about you, Faith.
Yeah. Not that I can think of.
No, the closest thing I could think of was, again, Percy Jackson, Zeus and Hercules. So, because he was just like, and go out there and fight those things, but that was completely different, and he's more comparable to Jesus.
I always think about Sisyphus when I think of the story, but that is because I know the Kierkegaard aspect of this, and it's so easy for me to imagine Abraham and Isaac walking up the mountain as Sisyphus is pushing up his boulder. Like, the existential parallels that we have, I think, is beside the point. But it's just so interesting to me.
Also,
so
there's
good.
no Isaac in 23. He doesn't show back up again until 24.
Right.
When they want to marry him off. But he's not around for the mother who loved him as she died.
He had to go off to college.
Go off to college.
He hadn't been resurrected yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, my daddy issues have fully cemented themselves. Let me go off to college to process.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's everything I have. Faith, Jodie, you have any other thoughts on stuff that we missed?
I will say I want to leave us with one of my favorite quotes from Soren Kierkegaard's Fear and Trembling. That I think really encapsulates his understanding of what happens with Abraham. He writes, he left behind his worldly understanding and took with him his faith. And so to Soren Kierkegaard, Johannes de Silentio's understanding at the very end of this, no matter what, God was going to redeem the situation. God was going, even if he had to kill him, God was going to resurrect that guy. Like, God was going to fix it no matter what. And so, like, it's such an interesting story to think about from his perspective, from the perspective of Abraham, when you think of, like, what did he actually think was going to happen up there? Like, once he got to the mountain, what was he gonna do? Like, but we know what he did. And the only way that Soren Kierkegaard's able to really deal with it is by saying, well, he knew that it was going to be redeemed. And I find that to be really compelling, and to be a compelling way to live out faith in whatever way someone might want to live out their own personal faith in whatever religion or belief that they have. I just find that really fascinating. So yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Faith.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming
So
in.
fun.
Is there anything that you would like to plug and say, hey, to our very many listeners, other than yourself, and say, hey, check out Faith's project that she's working on?
Yeah, I am a co-host on a podcast called The Garden Podcast. It is hosted by my church, San Dieguito United Methodist Church in Encinitas, California. So if you're ever in the San Diego area, come say hey and listen to our podcast. Yeah, that's
You know,
it.
you had a great podcast with Peter Enns a few months ago that I thought
Yeah.
was so good.
We've had Peter Enns, Tom Ord, we've had Rob Bell. We've had so many great people on, so it's been real fun.
Not
Perfect.
Rob.
Yeah, Robbie Boy was there with us.
It's exciting.
Very fun. But yeah,
Awesome. Well, thank you all for listening. Thank you, Faith, for joining us.
thank
If you
you.
have any comments or questions or critiques, please reach out to us on social media. You know, we're on TikTok, Instagram, Blue Sky, Facebook, YouTube. Listen to us on YouTube. We're having fun on YouTube. You can look at us on YouTube and
Oh yeah.
email. You can email us at thereligioustreehouse@gmail.com. But yeah, thank you all for listening. This has been such a good conversation.
Just don't critique anything I said. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Good. Thank you for ending with that. So we know, don't critique anything Faith says. This whole time, we didn't know what we were talking about.
We had no clue.
Nope. All right. Bye, all.
Bye. Ugh. Well, I don't know what we'll focus on next, Kierkegaard or the fact that there's just so many daddy issues in this.
So many daddy
So many.
issues.